It is a Sunday evening, and as usual, I'm sitting here with Johan Erasmus. And tonight he wants to talk to us about women, NPA, Trump, courts, property, and EWC. But before we start with that, I've got a question for Johan. Johan, can you give me just an outline of Operation Vula?
Okay, Operation Vula came to light during the transition period in the 90s. Anthea Jeffries from the Institute of Race Relations wrote about this in a book, People's War, page 192 in the first edition. A Brit in the lower house, Sir Joel Joffe, gave £100,000 to Mac Maharaj, Ivan Pillay, Pravin Gordhan, Tony Karimeng, and Sipiwe Nyanda to be used in Operation Vula. Now, first of all, Sir Joel Joffe was the father of Brian Joffe, the retired chairperson of Bidvest Bank. Does it make sense to you? Because Bidvest Bank did not exist before the ANC came to power. Or if it existed, it was in a very small fashion. But when the situation started with Operation Vula, because there was a lot of people in the ANC, and especially from their supporters, and it's not necessarily from Russia. They didn't want the transitional period to be a success, and they were setting up this Operation Vula, as I said correctly, the British financing. Because why would Joel Joffe give the ANC £100,000 from his own fucking pocket? Can you tell me that? Because it was given to him by the Brits, by the British institutions, by the British Secret Service, man. Think for yourself. Who wants to destroy this country? But in any case, Operation Vula came into being. And there were many people in the ANC that was very, very disturbed by this. And they went to the security forces and they started laying out what was happening. In a book called the ANC Spy Bible, it is recounted how that Pravin Gordhan goes to a house in Durban and he is literally flying in when the door goes open. The guy that opened the door grabbed him and pulled him in with a speed. And inside were security police standing with rifles trained on him. And these were all the guys who were acting against Operation Vula. And this was Mo Sheikh who wrote this book. Mo Sheikh was standing outside opposite of the street because he had dropped Pravin Gordhan and he went to check what's going on. But what happened in Operation Vula? Weapons flooded into this country and were put into caches. Now, what would normally happen with a cache if it was timelessly found? The SA Special Forces would take the RPG missiles, take off their heads, and pack it with explosives, and then reassemble it. Same with the hand grenades. The fuses in the hand grenade were cut so that when they pulled the pin, it exploded in the hand. And when you loaded an RPG with that, with the nose packed with explosives, it would explode on your shoulder. This is what they tried to do to me to get rid of me. I've recounted this before. Be that as it may, the fact of the matter is many of those caches were lifted. But even until today, there are so many caches people still do not know about. You hear about it in the whisperings, in the corridors, they whisper. Now, if those caches are about, the RPGs would be useless because the propellant which you screw on would have been time expired. Way. So that when you fired it, it would actually just sizzle and fizzle. It would not launch the RPG. But there are many weapons, pistols, AKs, PKM machine guns, and ammunition. If they were packed right, they would still be available. And these caches are mostly to be found in KwaZulu-Natal and especially northern KwaZulu-Natal. There are people who know where they are. And what's interesting is there's been massive restraint in using this because I've been listening to what people have been saying and saying all the black tribes in South Africa is very, very worried for when the Zulus get upset. Now, as I have it, the Zulus and then the Ndebele's will go together against whoever. And I understand the Vendas are not exactly high on their list of favorite people. But in any case, the problem is that with the whole Zondo Commission, everything has been done was being done to sideline the Zulus. Forget about Zuma. Zuma is but a figure in the Zulus. It's about sidelining the Zulu nation. Because remember, the ANC was traditionally Xhosa. When Zuma became deputy president, Joel Marcus is known to have said, now you're bringing him in to bring the Zulus in, but he will destroy the ANC. Because Zuma is not an idiot. Zuma plays chess. He speaks French. He speaks Russian. Zuma is highly intelligent. And remember, Koos Becker and the cartel have gone out of their way to victimize Zuma. Zuma's always the villain on their narrative, which is not true. Because when I sat with Zuma at various stages, my words were to him in his face, Ubaba, you might have made mistakes, but you're not the big one. These other people are 10,000 times more guilty than you. I'll give you an example. Pinnacle Point was liquidated around 2006. That was the time when Boko Haram was trained in Mossel Bay in South Africa, because the people from Stellenbosch involved wanted to get their hands on the oil in Nigeria. Now, on the liquidation of Pinnacle Point, there was an asset of 800 million rand belonging to a union.
Just a moment. 800 million rand.
Yep, 800 million rand. Okay? And it was sold to the members of the cartel in Stellenbosch for 2 million rand.
What?
Yep, that is how these people are making money. Oh, and believe me, they are smart, they are polished. Man, you've got no idea. They are the creme de la creme. Well, you don't only have cream coming to the top, you also have the scum coming to the top. You make your own conclusions. Now, the big thing is, where are the unions? Where are the unions? They're quiet because they were bought off. In COVID, the ANC said to me, Lek Ganyani from the ZCC received 10 million every quarter from Patrice Motsepe to keep quiet. Where are the unions? We don't hear them coming out. Where's Willem Wawe? Because here we get to Trump. Trump has won in a convincingly way. Why? Because America is gutful for what is going on. Miller Lite was printing on their tins, on Coors, if I remember correctly, LGBTQ issues. America boycotted it. They had to shut down that line. Häagen-Dazs, the same situation. They lost $500 million overnight as people withdrew their investments from the stock exchanges into this company. Disney had its worst income in the festivities in history in the past 3 years because America boycotted Disneyland. Now Trump has won. Trump has got a couple of axes to grind. One, with Zelensky. Zelensky refused to help him to nail Hunter Biden. You remember? And Trump will be quite right to stop the war in Ukraine tomorrow. Because this war was pushed by Stoltenberg from Norway, the Secretary General of NATO, because he promised Putin that they will not expand eastwards. Trump has got his work cut out for him. And he's got Robert Kennedy Jr. Robert Kennedy Jr. has written this book about Fauci and Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, this CDC, Center for Disease Control. Oh, by the way, South Africa now also has a Center for Disease Control. And he shows up how Fauci and Bill Gates, through their various foundations, had killed millions of Africans in Nigeria, in Zambia and in Malawi on so-called vaccines. Because the American DOD, Department of Defense, since the 1950s had started with a situation of, instead of war, fight a war with viruses. Use vaccination, use viruses to incapacitate your opponents, and use vaccination to safeguard your own people. It went so far, according to Kennedy, that there's so much money involved that the people who were manufacturing anthrax antivirus and various other antiviruses sold so much to the American Department of Defense that there were eight vaccinations for every person in the United States military. Trump has got a big issue. Iran are not, the people in Iran are not Arabs, they're Persians. They will tell you that. They speak Arab for sure. They speak Farsi as the main language. Don't make a mistake. Iran, the Iranians are no fools. They come with a long pedigree and a long history. A solution must be reached. Trump has got an issue to sort out with Netanyahu about Gaza, where the whole architect behind this issue lies in front of the door of Netanyahu. Because as long as the war continues, nobody will touch Netanyahu from a legal perspective. The question that must be asked, when these issues started on the 7th of October last year, at that stage, a year before the time, the girls watching all the cameras reported to their intelligence bosses in the military that there was things going on. And until the last day, the 6th of October, the military generals just wiped it off the table. 2 weeks before this incursion, the weapons were withdrawn from the kibbutzim. Only 2 kibbutzim refused to do it, and they never lost anybody, and they were the ones that fought the hardest. The Israeli Defense Force, their fast reaction force, who normally would react within 30 minutes, were withdrawn to such a distance, it took them 7 hours to get to the front. You're telling me this is by chance? This was planned.
For sure. I'm 100% with you on that. That is my opinion. 7th of October was staged.
Correct. And the view was, so what? If you make an omelette, you have to break some eggs.
Yeah.
This is
I
what
listened
Hitler
to that
did.
one Israeli pilot that deserted, and he is, they gave him safe haven in Syria. And in an interview, he said that he talks to his commanders and he tells them, this house that you want me to blow up, yes, we think there's about 2 Hamas people in there, but there's about 14 of our people in there. And I say, bomb it. And then he said to me, not to me, he said in his interview, he said, and we queried the fact that we were instructed to shoot all the cars that we see that leaves the area. And we told them, but that is, how do we know? In those cars are our people that are fleeing. And he said, shoot them. So,
but all those kibbutzim that were targets from Hamas out of Gaza, these were the Israelis who were more liberal, who have been known to criticize Netanyahu. So Netanyahu was also using it to strike at his political opponents.
okay.
So the big thing is, what is Trump going to do? Because remember, the question of the vaccinations, he is recalling with immediate effect the vaccination mandates. But you must remember, when you look at the Nuremberg Code of torture, of the use of vaccination, then America is guilty of transgressing of that code. The big situation is Bill Gates and his cronies who are using it to make money are equally guilty. And what is happening? Trump, why does he calls Africa a shithole place? When Ramaphosa was in America a couple of years ago, he said to him there's no farm murders. And Christine Amanpour from CNN was very taken with him. When he came out against corruption, where is she today? Why doesn't she follow up? Because a journalist is not an honest broker. He's not there to talk the truth. The South African embassy in Washington, the lady in charge of the intelligence there, who's now been replaced, she spouted the narrative of no farm murders in South Africa. What is happening? Leon Schreiber from the DA was pushing the issue in court about cadre deployment. Now he's the Minister of Home Affairs. Why don't we hear anything more from the guy? Because cadre deployment is not for blacks, it's not for the ANC. It is basically to put idiots in place so that you can steal. When you query them, when you look into the documentation, that leads me to the question of the woman. Women can make or break a situation. You've got Eva Vlaardingerbroek at the EU standing up against these LGBTQ and these leftist idiots. But Ursula von der Leyen, what a criminal. She is a criminal and should be arrested on sight. The EU is run out of Brussels in 1 year. It was reported they issued 1,800 regulations on all their member states. One of the regulations pertain to how you should fix a tire on a bicycle, a puncture. Crazy. The fact of sex education to kindergarten, what bullshit. But Ursula von der Leyen, what evil. Nancy Pelosi in America, absolute evil. In the past, it was said Trump couldn't act against them because they had him by the short and the curlies. It's time that that narrative gets turned around and that he takes action, because Nancy Pelosi and her Democrats, it is mind-boggling the nonsense which these people have been up to. I mean, Trump on a TV show said how stupid Kamala Harris is. And it goes back to one thing. Barack Obama said it very clear. No president is his own man. He's a puppet for various interests. Trump is very much his own man. There will be influence. Of course, there will be influence. There will be people wanting him to do what they want. But Trump, the only way he can change this is by moving fast. I'll give you an example. The American embassy in Pretoria, the CIA is a house divided. You've got the Biden camp and you've got the West Point camp. The Biden camp rules the roost in Pretoria. The Biden camp have been linked to prostitution, pedophilia, drugs, everything that is criminal. The West Point guys are sitting in Kenya. And interesting enough, it was told to me that the CIA in Pretoria reports not to Langley, the head office, but to the CIA in Australia. And look at what's happening in Australia. So when you look at women, I mean, we've got Helen Ziller, who's no slouch, who's no idiot, a member of the New World Order. First, she was going to crucify Ramaphosa. Now she wants to protect him at all costs from within the government of national unity. We've got Dr. Nikki Newton-Knight, the deputy rector in Stellenbosch. She and Wim de Villiers have been lying to the university about the reports pertaining to Wilgenhof. Judge Ian Cameron, as a chancellor, pointed it out. Now there's investigation into this whole fracas. Wim de Villiers have been implicated in various irregular issues in the past. And I can promise you now, in a month, I will be able to shut down the University of Stellenbosch on fraud and corruption in the administration, second to none. It is so easy to do it because what I've seen, and this is from a distance, the things happening there is mind-boggling. But it goes down to one thing. The people are sitting on their asses. There's over 243,000 alumni of Stellenbosch, of which I am one. They don't take action. I'm not saying start a revolution. I'm saying start asking questions. Put the issues around. The big thing is the cartel in Stellenbosch is controlling what is happening at the University of Stellenbosch. For once, it's all about moderation. As the president, he protects them because it's all about money. What the hell is wrong with this woman? Do they think they... Let's leave that for the moment. They are really a problem. I've got experience of women who think that they can stand at a urinal and perform better than any man. The fact of the matter is, Vanessa de Tooy as the previous director of compliance with the National Conventional Arms Control Committee, and Ronel Gericke, who was the head of proliferation at the State Security Agency. They went out of their way to create false narratives. I know, because interesting enough, I was never charged. Until today, I haven't had the opportunity to put my case. And any civil action I took, my legal teams were intimidated and blackmailed. So when you look at women, you must understand one thing. When you look at Samson and Delilah, that says it all. I'm not saying all women are like that, but I'm saying be careful. Be very careful. Women in positions of power are a problem. And this is what we're looking at. Nomvula Mokonyane of the ANC, Minister of Water Affairs, she messed up during her time that department second to none. In the Bosasa affair, it came out that she had an Aston Martin standing on bricks in her garage under blankets because it is a clear sign of corruption. She doesn't want that is excessive in order to flaunt it. Where are we going? What are we doing? How are we going to get rid of this? You know, people are asking me, and I'm scratching my head, and I don't really know what the hell I should say to them. The one thing I can say to people is, how many whites are we in this country? How many blacks are we? The whites must work with the blacks. The Boere must work with the blacks because, like yeast in the dough, you can influence the situation, and that is what is required. Absolutely. Because what I've seen in the politics, the role of the LGBTQ, openly gay and openly working against the best of the situation. In Stellenbosch, I've seen them. Wherever I go, I've seen them. Rolf Meyer, a man who used to leave generals to come and greet me in the 80s. We don't see eye to eye. Rolf Meyer, after the ANC took over, became a director in Arms Corps. Now, when you become a director in Arms Corps, you get a hell of a big salary, and you can only have 2 terms of 5 years each. He wanted a third term. The ANC accommodated him somewhere else, and suddenly he pops up as being a mediator in the Congo. Everywhere you turn, there's an advocate, Anthony Brink, in Durban, in KwaZulu-Natal. He talks about the corruption in the judicial system. And he specifically mentions a Judge Steyn, a white Afrikaner woman, to whom he said in court, but madam, you haven't even read the court papers. And this is the problem. There are very good and some brilliant women judges, but there are also people that are really sucking up for what and why, I do not know. Female magistrates in Pretoria Magistrate Court years ago, too lazy to read what is on the papers. Shamila Batoy at the National Prosecuting Authority. She might be very good in her job, but she's incompetent. And the reason I say she's incompetent is that she's not capable to run that institution because it's just a difficult institution. Firstly, there's too much political interference. And then the big thing is she's also sabotaged from within. If you want to survive, you have to take care of this. There's no democracy in an organization like that. You've got to be a despot. You've got to be dictatorial in order to enforce democracy. Because what is democracy? Democracy is the first step to anarchy. Wherever I go, whatever I do, whatever I study, it always comes down to one thing. Look at Venezuela. Victor Chavez, I mean, the current president, lost the election, but he says he's won it because he controls the military and the weapons. So much for democracy. The FBI, with whom Trump has got a major issue, charged how many people for insurrection invading the White House? How many people of those have actually received pardons because the FBI, it has come out in court, have not provided the correct information? For instance, they claimed it was an armed insurrection. The video footage showed the police were actually escorting the people and showing them where the officers were. Yes, there were problems, but it was always FBI instigated. I hope Trump cleans them out, because my experience of the FBI and the DEA that reports to the FBI, I cannot talk anything good, anything positive about them. My experience is they're wasting everybody's time.
Johan, look,
Yes.
let's see what Trump manages to do. Because I've read a small article earlier tonight where they said there's some clause somewhere that can be, if they implement that clause, it's about the fact that is Biden competent to continue? And if they bring that clause into play and they do the investigation on him, it means that Trump take the seat immediately. Will they get it? I don't know. There's so much talk going around. The thing is this, all I know is that at this point in time, I think there's not many clean underpants in Washington, and the same in Europe. So let's see what this week brings. I think we must call it a day here. I'm glad that you told me about that Operation Vula. I think there's many of us that are unaware of these things. And those are the things that can become extremely dangerous for the whole country. I am highly concerned about the fuck up in Mozambique because it can flow into our country like that. First of all, we don't have the security forces to block it if masses of them come over the border. But on the other hand, there's already millions of them in the country.
Just before we go, President Nyusi is the president that's now gone out in Mozambique. Before him was Kobosa. At that stage, when Kobosa was there, it was alleged that he received $100 million from the drug lords to run drugs through Mozambique and weapons into South Africa. When you go into Nelspruit, Bombela, I will give you the names, you can go and check. They even appear on a database of the Drug Enforcement Agency in America. And the FBI, who are quick to arrest people worldwide, has done nothing. Why? That's it for today. We'll talk about it next week.
Okay, Johan. Lekker aand vir jou en dankie vir jou tyd. Ek gaan nou die ding eindig. Kyk maar na die videoetjie as jy wil.
Ek gaan kyk na jou links. Dankie.